Alright, I'm in the movie theater parking lot again. I just got out of seeing The Smashing Machine, starring The Rock and Emily Blunt, directed by Benny Safdie. I liked it. It was pretty good. I'll say off the bat, I'm a big fan of the Safdie brothers films. I really liked Good Time. I really liked Uncut Gems. So that's probably why I was most excited for this movie. I'm not the biggest fan of The Rock, but he really stepped up here. He gave a pretty good performance. If you saw the trailer, you kind of know what you're in for in terms of his performance. There's some really good moments in here. Some pretty decent drama. I don't know if he's going to get like an Oscar nomination or anything like that out of this, but it was really good for, The Rock. And the directing was good too. It's kind of filmed in an interesting style, kind of like a documentary style, like it felt like The Office or something. But I will say this film isn't nearly as tense as like Good Times or Uncut Gems. If you're kind of looking for that in terms of like your Safdie brothers fix, you might not necessarily get that. I thought there were some pretty good scenes between Emily Blunt and The Rock. There's some kind of annoying scenes too where they're just like arguing, and I don't know, if you don't like watching couples fight or if you just think it's stupid, you might be kind of bored with that stuff. But there's some really great moments with them too, and there's some moments where you really get their chemistry and their relationship. They do the back and forth pretty well where they're supportive of each other, but then they're fighting. And I think Emily Blunt walks that line of like, she's clearly a little bit unhinged, but she's also like very supportive and loving. So you kind of buy their relationship. There was some moments though that kind of felt like bad reality TV, Feels a little bit trashy at times. That's definitely kind of what they're going for though. And also the film taking place in like the late 90s, early 2000s also kind of gave it that like reality TV vibe. They showed a decent amount of fighting and stuff in the movie too. I don't know, I didn't think it was all that interesting. I'm not a fan of UFC. If you are a UFC fan, maybe you'll think that's pretty cool, I know a lot of rules have changed in UFC. They talk about that in the movie a little bit. So maybe if you're like a nerd about that sort of thing, you'll be interested. But yeah, I was really just here for the performances and the directing. I thought both were pretty serviceable, but neither really blew me away. I think I might have expected this movie to be a little bit better, but I will say this movie is kind of subtle at times, and those are the best times. When things are kind of hectic and they're like exploding on the screen, like big arguments and stuff, it's kind of like, whatever. For me, I found like the quieter moments of the film were the more profound moments. And also the quieter moments of The Rock's performance too. Like there's a scene I really love in the trailer where he's trying to get stronger painkillers out of this Japanese doctor, and they're just like not communicating. Basically, he says the best he can do is Advil, and The Rock is very snarky about it, and he's like, oh, they're handing them out like candy here. And just like those subtle little things are like some of the best acting I've seen The Rock ever do. Mark Kerr as a person, he was like extremely polite and positive, and like seeing The Rock kind of embody that, it's like the most of a character he's ever done. He's not just playing himself. He's like really doing something here, which is refreshing to see from him. The film is bombing though, and I don't think that's the film's fault. I just think people are either not aware of this story or they just don't care about it. The Rock has kind of been on the downward slope in terms of his star power, and he hasn't done really the best projects lately. He's clearly trying to turn that around with this film. And maybe just one Safdie brother isn't a big enough draw for some people. But either way, yeah, it's a real shame. The film had a pretty quiet opening. My theater was me and one other person. That was it. But there's also just so much out in theaters right now. I've been going to the movie theater almost every day. I've been doing a lot of double features, just trying to see everything, and it's like impossible to keep up right now. So like there's a lot of competition for this film. And October, the audience kind of skews horror for people that are going out to the theater. So it's totally understandable that this film just isn't doing well. Again, I don't think it's the film's fault. But yeah, I hope this film finds its audience. I mean, there's something here, it's not a bad movie. I don't think it's going to be like talked about or remembered super well by everybody, quite like Uncut Gems was, I don't think it's as surprising as a performance. Even though The Rock's performance is really good, I don't think it's as interesting as a performance as like Adam Sandler and Uncut Gems. It's not as catchy as something like that. But I think the film is worth your time. It's worth a watch, especially if you saw the trailers and it sparked your interest. I think you should definitely check it out. So yeah, go to the theater and support this movie. Make sure it makes some money. I know we've gotten a lot of biopics lately, but these kind of quieter films, we don't really get too much anymore. And I really liked that. It wasn't like a music biopic. Like this is just a guy who was a fighter. So it's way more low key than like a lot of biopics we've gotten lately. And I appreciate that. I appreciate just the mid-level movie, and we need more of it, and we need to support it more. So yeah, on the Letterboxd 5-star review scale, I guess I would give it like 3.5 stars, maybe 4 stars. stars. I don't know. For me personally, I might go with 3.5 just because, like I said, I don't care about UFC and I don't care about The Rock, but like I was totally willing to be like happily surprised. And this movie kind of got me there, you know? Definitely with the help of like Benny Safdie directing. I think that helped a lot. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.